Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the How is Life podcast. And I am your host, Chidinma Chika. We are back for another episode in the What Experts Really Want to Tell You series, the finance series. And today we're going to be talking about the art of engaging investors. This is for people in business, for people that are particular about sponsorship. You feel like you know a couple of things. Today we are here to break down. And I won't be doing much talking. I would just be asking questions at the end of it. So we have a guest with us, an expert with us that is really going to break down what it is that we need to know, what we need to understand when it comes to engaging investors. And today we are with Tracy Okoro Isaac. She's an accomplished professional who has made significant contributions to Nigeria's business, security, and policy landscape. In addition to her role as partner at Digita, a policy advisory, execution, and strategy development firm, and executive director / head of policy and research at Business Academy Africa, formerly the CEO of Ventures Park, one of Nigeria's leading innovation and entrepreneurship firms. Tracy is also a thought leader and a community builder in the digital economy. Tracy is a respected member of the Digital Economy Forum, where she serves as a founding member and a think tank platform dedicated to connecting telecom and tech ecosystem leaders with policymakers at the forefront of Nigeria's digital transformation. With a BSc in political science and a master's in public policy and research, Tracy is a Stanford School and McKinsey Institute graduate, trained in design thinking, company culture and leadership, technical writing, research, and problem solving. She has trained over 1,200 senior management executives, middle management employees, and founders on design thinking, entrepreneurship, business management, leadership, and personal development, among others. Tracy's reputation as a fixer is well-deserved, as she has a proven track record of solving problems and helping people to overcome challenges. So please help me make welcome Tracy Okoro Isaac. Welcome, Mr. Tracy. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you, Chi. Thank you. It's really exciting to be on the podcast, finally.
Exactly, finally. After a lot of planning and scheduling, we're so glad this is happening.
But like I said, I'm really excited to be here, talking to entrepreneurs and helping entrepreneurs really understand, how to build, what to expect when you're building. And part of what to expect is, dealing with people in the ecosystem, of which investors are one of them and one of the key players also. So it's exciting to be able to share. So I'm looking forward to the questions.
Before the questions, I am going to just leave the platform for you. The series says what experts really want to tell us. And you are the expert in investor engagement in the room right now. So we need you to tell us what piece of the puzzle are we missing? What do we not know? Or what do we feel we know but is not accurate in actually dealing with investors? So for the next couple of minutes, I will be leaving you with.
Okay, thank you so much. And please don't be so far away. One of the key things that I think I would love for listeners and viewers, to really know, when even dealing with anybody, the key thing is to understand their mindset, right? What drives them. And so that's the same thing with investors. You have to understand the psychology behind their investment or the passion for them wanting to invest. What are their concerns, right? What are their expectations? And so when you sort of look through that, you realize that investors are fundamentally looking for opportunities to be able to grow their capital. And they are interested in businesses, ideas that typically have a long shelf life. And that long shelf life means that it's a problem that people want solved. because you may be solving a problem that people don't want to solve, right? And you
Right?
may be trying to get into a market that there is no market for it. And so this is a conversation. You may say, oh, there is a market for it, but are you sure the market wants it? And so investors are also typically interested in businesses with a strong team, a scalable business model. And so it's very important for you to remember that investors are risk averse. Forget the ones that are always taking the risk, but they would, if they were given the choice to choose, they would typically just be risk averse. They don't want to dive into the deep ocean without having to see all the details around the sea. They want to see evidence of your ability to be able to navigate challenges and mitigate risk, right? But the thing is, when you see entrepreneurs or founders and they come to pitch to investors, they're telling investors, no, everything is fine, that nothing can go wrong, everything. And because investors know that that's not right, things can go wrong. If you've typically built a business, right, you will know that things can go wrong. But investors want to know that since you know that things can go wrong, how do you plan to adapt? How do you plan to mitigate? And I'm going to use COVID as an example. There are very few people who can ever say that they've done business during a pandemic. And I'm saying in this our lifetime, right? And so there's no business or an investor that is within this age range that can say to you that they've done business through a pandemic. So imagine if you were trying to pitch a business to investors at that time, you would need to show them that regardless of the pandemic, you fully understand the market, but you are playing towards on that pandemic theory that now we're in a pandemic. Should there be even something worse than that, that you're prepared for it? Investors want to know that you have sort of covered in and out. Then another thing is your compelling pitch. You have to make sure that you're telling a story that is believable. And that's typically why investors want to know your lived experience around the problem. So let's say that you're solving a problem around providing access to drinking water. You can't come to them and say, oh, you are just trying to solve the problem because you need to notice that there's a problem. They want to see what is driving you beyond the ordinary. Because see, entrepreneurs are different from businessmen and women. Entrepreneurs build businesses, but they're different. For an entrepreneur, it's about impact, it's about legacy. How do I solve a problem that sort of goes beyond the now till the nearest future? It's about building that scalable model of product or service, right? Unlike, businessman or woman who's just sort of repetitive, being sort of driving the different value chains in the industry and saying, oh, I'm able to move this already prepared product from here to here. I want to supply from here to here, right? So investors want to see that passion, like what's your lived experience in connection to the problem you're trying to solve. And so as an entrepreneur, right, when you have understood the investor psychology, you now need to say to yourself, how do I tell the story that resonates? You need to ask yourself, am I touching all the key elements of a successful pitch? And pitching is totally different. There is your regular pitch, there is the elevator pitch, there is the investor pitch. All these things are totally different because of how in-depth that each of them have to be. For your 1 minute elevator pitch, there's not a lot that you can put into 1 minute or 2 minutes. So that means you have to be able to sell your business in under 2 minutes to some investor you've probably just walked into an elevator with, or you found yourself at a conference and you're sitting right next to someone who's interested in investing in, let's say, renewable energy industry or sector, and you have a business or you have a startup in that area. You have to be ready to pitch in the way that it catches his attention to get you a second meeting or gets him or her to talk to you, right? Your pitch and a strong pitch has to be clear. I have to know what you're saying. If it's ambiguous, then you've lost me in the first 2 slides. It has to be concise, very simple, that I can understand what you're saying. And it has to be engaging. I have to follow it. And that's why I talked about pitching is telling the story about your business. Imagine if I wanted to tell you a story and I said to you that, oh, my name is Tracy. I come from something in a Gbagi village. I have a business. My business is about making sure that Gbagi farmers have access to market, right? So that where they finish their products and they are able to move it to market as fast as they could without having to, do the risk of spoilage or because they don't have storage, things can happen. Or I start this story by saying, at age 4, I already knew what it meant, right? To lose all your life savings and all you've ever worked for. At age 4, I knew what it meant to watch my parents, cry and grovel at neighbors just to find something to eat. My parents are poor farmers from Gameberry village in the Gbagi, whatever. And in so and so date, something happened. They were trying to move their produce from here to here, and something happened. And because of that, they lost all their produce, they lost all their savings, and we had to start begging for food. And so that has now led me to say, I never want to see any other family have to grovel for food because of their losing their farm work or they're losing their labor. Look at these 2 stories. Which one do you think is more compelling? Which one will get you to say, okay, I think this person has skin in the game. It's personal for this person, and so they have to be able to do it. Am I saying that you always have to have some sad or sub story when you're pitching? No, I'm saying keep it relatable. Even if you aren't the one who has the lived experience, you have to tell the story about the people who have the lived experience. It might not be your parents. You can talk about a family that is constantly having to suffer as a result of a gap, and that's why you're trying to solve the gap. It can be in any sector, education, any kind of sector, health. People who, as a result of poor access to quality healthcare, lose their lives. Maternal mortality, right? Giving birth because they don't have access to good gynecology operations in the location that they're in. I'm trying to tell you this because while your idea might be unique and great, if you're not able to sell properly or to pass on the message properly to the investor, you lose the investor, and every other thing you're saying may not make sense. Now, in the middle of your pitch, be sure to make sure that your competitive edge is clear, is unique, and then you also show your market opportunity. Why you, why now? Additionally, a good pitch should be backed by data and evidence. Show the numbers, go do the research. Do not be afraid to be able to say, oh, I got it from Statista, World Bank report. Go and show the numbers and the research. Investors are likely to believe you if you can show them that there have been previous information or data that has been generated around the problem that you are solving. Third thing for me around engaging investors is you have to also know and understand how to build relationships, right? Because while a great pitch is important, building a relationship with investors is equally crucial. You can say to yourself, how can an entrepreneur cultivate strong relationship with potential investor? Very easy. Networking is key. You have to say to yourself that you commit to attending networking events, industry events, connect with investors on LinkedIn, on social media, leverage your existing framework, or find your peers or senior colleagues around you and reach out to them and ask for referrals into their networks and their circles. When you have already built relationship with an investor, it's very easy for you to pitch, and then they have a bias because they want to listen to you. Then when you meet with investors, you have to be genuine. You have to be ready, you have to be prepared, and you also have to learn to follow up promptly. So when an investor says, okay, can I see something from you that explains this. Because if an investor has an interest in you, you won't be able to sustain that interest within the timeline that the investor has that interest. If you allow that interest die because of being disorderly, not being prompt, not following up properly, or not giving the investor exactly what they ask for, and please feel free to ask, to say to the investor, do you mean this? Or would you kindly explain further what you want from me? If you say to yourself, okay, and you don't ask questions, then you go around stumbling and you give an investor what they didn't ask of you, you run the risk of the investor thinking that you do not really understand the business or the terrain, and then they can decide that they're no longer investing on you. Now, someone might say, oh, I finally got a meeting with this investor, I've pitched, but there's so many questions that the investor is asking me. How can I handle investor questions? And that's also a very important thing for me, because investors will invariably have questions, and it's important to ask yourself, how can I, as an entrepreneur, prepare for those tough questions and be able to deliver confident answers? Because it's one thing if you are answering a question and you're being fidgety and you're shaking, you're nervous. It's another thing if you're able to answer confidently and as genuine as possible. Where you do not have information, you can say, oh, we do not have this information at the moment, but we have started to do some data-backed research around it, and can I get back to you in a week with some of the things that we have found? Then you have to practice. People say practice makes perfect. I don't believe that. I believe that practice makes progress. You get better with time. We're never really perfect because we keep learning, right? You might meet an investor who will ask you some really thorough questions, and you might meet an investor who's just very interested in the personality and the capacity of the founder or the team. Whatever investor, whichever one you meet, you have to be ready to ask and to get ready to be asked, and for you to answer those pertinent questions, anticipate potential questions, and prepare very thoughtful responses. It has to look like you have really given thought to it, and so that's why you have to practice and prepare ahead. Your answers need to reflect your passion and your drive to be able to solve that problem, and you have to be honest and transparent. Investors want to know that you understand that you're human. Like I said when I started, you may never be able to solve all the problems, but your solution may be the first step, or the second or third step towards solving some part of that problem. And if the market is really large, it will be a huge chunk enough for the investor to bite. But you have to also remember that investors are looking for returns on their investment, so it's personal for them too. If you say to yourself, if someone will give me 1 million naira to be able to do this, can I put 1 million naira in this business if someone was pitching it to me? And if it feels like something that excites you, then it might also excite an investor. But for another person, they may not have the personal bias you have towards the subject. So you need to be able to get them to bite. I think that's it for me. Once you can demonstrate that your business has the potential to deliver that return, you're more than likely going to secure some funding.
Okay, thank you so much, Tracy. You just went above the expectations. Thank you so much. How can we know, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, a founder, how can you know exactly when your business or what it is that you are doing is ready for investors?
So like I said, you have to be able to check off certain things, right? Yeah. If your business model is scalable, you have tried it, there's traction, you've seen that it's doable, right? And then you have people that have bought into it. Because you see, the thing is, it's different when you say, oh, I know this, it's a great business, it's a great market, right? But then it's also different when you go to the real market, and are people willing to pay you versus the already existing solution. So imagine communication as the problem you're trying to solve. We already have phones, handsets. For brands like Apple, they're selling a lifestyle. They're selling much more than just a phone. So maybe when people want to buy an Apple phone, they're saying, I want to buy that lifestyle. I want to buy the comfort. I want to buy the ease. Samsung, I want to buy into that creativity. I want to buy into that sleekness, right? Yeah, so for me, I will reiterate some of the things that I've said. You have to make sure that um, there's traction, potential customers. You have proof that people want to buy, and a lot of people are ready for it. Yes, that's when you know that you're ready for funding. But apart from that, nobody will give you their money if you haven't proven that you can make money by yourself.
And can this be judged by the number of years you've stayed in the market? Or can in your first year, can you just, say, yes, I've checked what I need to check and I can begin sourcing for fundings?
Well, it's fully dependent if what you're building it off the infrastructure of other people. I am a proponent for going at it and failing fast and failing forward, right? Go to test it out. If it's not working, it's not working. You come back again, you have to do it again, and you keep. But before you go to ask people for money, like I said, you have to prove that your MVP is working. That you have to prove that people are willing to pay for it. So all this can happen in 1 year, depending on how easy the environment is, how much people want it. Because imagine if, and I'm going to give you like a gap, or I'm giving one problem statement that I'm trying to solve. Right now, medical students who are trying to write their MDCN, right? There's a real problem because I think just over 20%, I think just under 20% of them finally make it to be doctors, right?
Okay.
And people don't know, what did I fail at? What did I succeed at? There's really no platform to do that. And so these are some of the things that I think that if someone is solving for it and the government partners with such startup, and the environment is so clear, you can, in 1 year, yes, you can develop an MVP that works. For example, it's a waiting and ready market, and they will jump at it. But you have to go test that they will really jump at it, and you have to come back from that product market testing to say, okay, they have said that if I can just make it like this, I can make it like this. And you can take the first prototype to market and you begin to sell. And then when you have gotten that market validation, your product market fit, and some traction, you can now decide to go to investors. Yeah.
And so how do we now know the right people to meet, the right investors? Because there's some people that have sworn to agriculture. They are not doing anything outside that agriculture. So how would one know exactly the investor to meet?
I mean, research, right? Research. You have to develop your cluster, right? Tell yourself, find all the different people who fund the sector that you are currently operating in. So the different clusters would typically be government, DFIs, private organizations, and then VCs. VCs fall under private organizations, but VCs, and then to find the different people who fit the profile and say, go research them. For example, Chidinma is an investor. What does she typically fund? What has she funded before? If you look at all that Chidinma has funded before, you can deduct a pattern. Mm-hmm. And say it seems like she likes to fund agro-based startups. It seems like she's more on fintech. It seems like it's health tech, or there is a chance she funds health tech and fintech. Oh, I've seen that she funds 5 kinds of sectors. So that means she might be sector agnostic. And now the question will be, what sets these people apart? And so what you can do will be to have meetings with all these organizations that Chidinma funds and said, I'm trying to get Chidinma to fund me. I'd like to ask, when you did your pitch to Chidinma, what were the typical questions that Chidinma asked and what was very key for Chidinma? They might not reach out to you immediately, they might not answer you, but if you do persevere and if also show them your passion for what you're solving, it might work. Also, you can get someone else. You may also be able to get someone else to refer or introduce you to them. And that way you have access to be able to learn from them how these things have worked. Some of the things that at Business Academy Africa we're trying to do right now are we're creating a collective, and in that collective we're going to have clusters. These clusters are going to be sector focused, right? And in these sector focused clusters, we're going to have the investment arm and the startup or founder arm, and even SMEs in it. The idea behind it is that if we find really great investors who have invested here, and startups who have been invested in, and startups who need investment, and businesses who can partner with these startups to be able to move their businesses further, then there will be that smooth collaboration, and the fact that that's synchronized effort between everybody would make for some ease in that industry. So imagine if let's use an example. If Thrive Agri can say, this is what my typical deck would look like, and shares that knowledge with all the agro-focused startups that are coming up, and then they learn. And then after they learn, they have sort of back and forth mentorship that helps them tweak their idea to sort of suit it. And then we arrange for some of these events with these investors. Now that we know what the investors are looking for, it's easy to say that the investors might either invest in one or two. And with every success story, we get better at understanding what exactly the investors are looking for. Spread more value in the value chain. These are some of the things that we're looking at Business Academy.
That is so insightful, particularly when you mentioned reaching out to people they have previously invested in to know what exactly you can put in, what exactly to say. I don't think that is an information that is really circulating, honestly, because people just feel, okay, this investor has invested in this, so I just go straight. Even if they're researching, their research is mainly on the investor. No one is really thinking about going to meet those people that have been invested in to know, okay, what do I say? What do I do? How do I present myself better? And I think that information, if you are listening to this, please hold on to it. It's very crucial for you to be able to get or grasp other people's experiences to help you better reach out to investors. So there was one last question that I had. I think you had answered it, but I would just like to ask it again for the sake of it. And it's how does one balance transparency with strategic confidentiality? How do they strike that balance of not saying everything? Like they don't just say, okay, this is every little detail. However, they are still concise and still able to talk about what it is that they do without all giving out all the whole intricate details of it.
Okay, I'll start by saying that the two of them mean two different things, right? But you have to understand the importance of both. They're essential principles in various contexts. And so whether in personal relationships, whether it's in business, I mean, totally different things, but they're very important. So while transparency helps to create trust and, open communication, confidentiality is more about privacy and security, right? So being able to balance the two can be challenging, but it's very crucial, especially for maintaining healthy relationships and ethical practice in business. For transparency, you tend to communicate openly, right? Active listening, pay attention to what the investor is saying, engage with the investor and say it's not. So let me give a practical example. I'm speaking with an investor and the investor is saying to you that, so what's the key thing that you have that other people don't have? And so either you come up front before that meeting happens, you sign an NDA with, if you're really that scared, you sign an NDA with the investor, or you go ahead and do an IP on your idea or that thing, or the unique advantage that you bring just to clear the air. But typically what I would do is have, an honest dialogue with the investor and say, at this moment, I do not think I would like to give up because that's my strength and all that, until I know that you're really ready to be able to back me. I'm not comfortable sharing, but what I can tell you about it is that this is what it will help to do. These are the things that it will solve. This is how far I have come with it. And so I am giving all the information without giving all the other information. In confidentiality and transparency and balancing it, you have to be able to sort of define clear boundaries, right? Establish your expectations, clearly communicate what information you're willing to share and what you consider private before you even start anything. Like I said, you need to be able to set limits, determine where and when certain topics or information will be discussed. Maybe you might need to do some things face to face just to make sure that it isn't recorded or stuff like that. Then you have to respect privacy, right? Before sharing information or personal data about someone, ask for their consent. And so in business, this may be that when you send a document or data to your investor, please clearly write that you wouldn't like for that information to be shared, as at the moment it is private and confidential. Then maintain trust. Avoid disclosing sensitive information also on your end. Because if you're on a call with an investor who trusts you and they're able to share some information or divulge some really private and confidential data with you, you don't go and spread it and tell your people just because you have that information. Be discreet. Consider the context, right? Evaluate whether the situation warrants sharing certain information. Then refrain from tattletelling just because you have the information. But like I said, I think that the key for me will be to leverage confidentiality agreements. In professional settings, you need to learn to use legal contracts to be able to protect sensitive information, set clear expectations, clearly outline the terms of the agreement and the consequences of breaching them. Then also be very mindful of social media, limit what you're sharing, be cautious about what you post online, because what public information can be accessed. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much for that. Just to pick on something you said when you said you're speaking to an investor and the person says, okay, so what differentiates you from the other people in the market? I would like us, I don't know, do you watch or do you follow Lion's Den?
Yeah.
Okay. So a situation like that, and then you have someone pitching their business and they are asked, what separates you from the people out there, the people already in the market? Are you still at the liberty to say, okay, this is what, start listing out, or would you still have to hold back a couple of information?
Typically in programs like Lions, and there are documents that are given to participants to sign. And so if you sign that document, typically you would sign away your right to proprietary information, because they will tell you that because it's publicly viewed, anything you say here, and you cannot hold them to the fact that it cannot be shared out there. Now, if you do sign such document, you can clearly say to them that you may not subscribe to the fact that you won't share certain things, or you can bring your own document to also say that while you agree to be on this program and say what you need to say, there are certain things that you would not say, and so they cannot also hold you to it in the program. And so when you get in there, like I talked about, practice making progress, practice being able to speak to that unique a solution that you bring on board without giving away your private or confidential proprietary software or service or product, right? Talk as to what your product does. Talk as to the ease it will bring. Talk as to the impact it will share. Let's say that what I am doing is I'm trying to bring water that when you drink it, you may not be able to drink water for the next 1 month, right?
Okay.
And my proprietary product in it is there's an ingredient that I use in my water distillation that when you drink it, it keeps your body hydrated for up to a month. And so you constantly feel like you do not need to drink water for up to a month. That ingredient is what is proprietary. But when I come to tell people that I'm selling bottled water, I know they'll be like, bottled water. like, why is your bottled water different? I will speak to the fact that after you drink my bottled water, you are not going to thirst again. And they're like, are you Jesus? Bottle the drink of life. And you can say, well, at the moment, I might not be Jesus, but I think I've hacked what Jesus was trying to do at the time. He was saying he was the water of life, right? Why did I say that? What was different? My water will help you do this. My water can help villages who do not have access to water. They can just be with the water. They can utilize my proprietary products with their water drinking, and they will constantly feel hydrated. They won't have the need for this. So you speak to the impact, you speak to the solution that is happening, and not necessarily that your proprietary product, service, or software. So that's what it is.
Okay, thank you so much for your explicit, concise, and wonderful answers to all the questions that have been asked. I'm just going to ask for the last thing I am going to ask, I think. Do you have any, because one thing about this series is that we're trying to move a lot from just having conversations around topics to how we can actually implement the things that we are ideating or the things we're talking about. So do you have any materials or courses that you have in your archives of something that you could just share? Okay.
Yeah, so I'm designing some products, right? Some courses that will go live soon by October. They will all go live. Hopefully they will be free all of October. But from November, they will go back up and become paid courses.
Okay.
But I'm just putting together some of the things I've learned over time around funding, financing, pitching, product pricing, customer acquisition, just typical things. I'm going to talk about what a proper deck should look like, what an elevator deck should look like. There will be templates on the site, right? So if you don't want to go through all the hassle, you can just download the template and you would fill in your information, right? So rather than thinking, what do you need to do right about, you just download it. We're putting all together a lot of templates. So even licensing, what is required, CAC, registering your company from start to finish. We're putting together all those templates just to make it easy for entrepreneurs to build, thrive, and grow.
Okay, so right now it's not yet available, or it will be made available in October. That's what you're saying?
Yes, it will be made available in October. But there are courses that people can go and take. I think we have one that it's pretty long. It's called From Idea to Scale. It's really, but I'm trying to break it up into smaller portions. But From Idea to Scale is a very good course. There are videos we've compiled of very serious experts, right? Who get to speak on different things that you need to learn from your idea stage till you scale.
Okay, so where can we access the courses or this course that you're talking about?
Yeah, just on the website. It's right here on my background, if you can see it. It's www.businessacademy.africa.
Okay. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Tracy, for the time that we have had. It has been a lot, honestly. It has been a lot. I, for one, am someone that has always been interested in how better to engage investors, because while you think you know a lot about your business, you have an investor asking you something, you're like, where did you even get that question from? So yes, this particular episode is one for the books, honestly, and I am so glad. I am so grateful that somehow God linked you to this episode, because I mean, I don't think I would know anyone that would have been better suited for this episode. You really took us deep into what you want us to really know about engaging investors. So I am honestly so grateful for you. So yes, that is where we will call this episode to an end. I hope that for everyone that is listening or that has listened, I hope you really got something out of this. For startups, founders, I hope you now know what to do, what to better do, what to not do anymore. So if you have a question on reaching out to investors, just send your questions over to me via Instagram DM How is Life _podcast, and we will I'll compile the questions and forward them to Tracy, and she will get you your answers. All right. So thank you so much, Tracy, and do have a lovely day.
You too.
And so you just listened to Tracy Okoro Isaac. Again, I hope you learned a lot, because yeah, I did. I can't even feign it. I did. And I'm so grateful once again to Tracy for coming onto the platform to really share her insights on investor engagement. So don't forget to engage with the podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at How Is Life Podcast. Follow us on Instagram at How Is Life _podcast. And so we have a couple of events coming up for you. Yes, we have 3 events in 2 cities. That is amazing, honestly. 3 events in 2 cities, and I cannot wait to share the details with you. One city is going to be Abuja, the second city Lagos. So if you are in any of these cities, make sure you connect. We'll be sharing details of the events pretty soon. Once you just have every other thing in place, we will share details of the event. So get yourselves ready, get your pockets ready, get everything ready, because we are here to help you implement. Like Tracy was saying something about a course that they have on their website, Business Academy Africa, from ideation to scaling. So yes, this is our way of saying, this is the podcast's way of saying, you know what, enough ideation, come implement. Yes. So we have something, and just a little tip. It is going to be related to investor engagement. So I am begging you, founders. You know, it's a time. I might not beg again. So yeah, so I am pleading with you to get ready. What we have planned for you has your name written all over it. All right. Remember, you just listened to the How Is Life podcast, and I am your host, Chidinma Chika. Remember to read your Bibles, stay blessed, and you have a wonderful week and month ahead. See you in the next episode.